Hey, welcome everybody. Thanks for attending today's training session on how to do great digital economic development. This is an excellent group we were able to bring together. I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Aaron Brissois, the CEO of Golden Shovel Agency, and my co-moderator today is Anatalia Ubalde from Financial Times and Size Up. And then we have four excellent speakers. We have Mark Hayes, for the director of Size Up. We have Chris Knight from Webtech. We've got John Marshall, the president of Golden Shovel Agency, and Russ Riblett, the vice president of GIS Planning. Thanks, guys, for joining us all today. And before I pass it over to Natalia, I just want to talk a little bit about why I think this is such an important webinar today. And there's a few different things to looking at about economic development. Now, the first thing is COVID. Now, digital economic development was already a trend before COVID. After COVID, it just put so much gasoline on that fire. There's a few things that have happened. One is that all of our websites are no longer just informational. We're not just sending out information. We're now changing those into lead generation tools. They're turning into powerful web development tools for providing other types of information. We're now doing all of our meetings virtually. And I want you to think a little bit about a brand. Like right now, if you have a brand, you can't necessarily see somebody in person. You can't necessarily show somebody your print materials. Everything is going to be touch points. Today, when we look at some of these demonstrations, we're going to see some of the more powerful tools that we have to be able to share. Let me pass it over to you, Natalia.
Thank you, everybody. Welcome to this talk. Got some fantastic speakers, as Aaron mentioned. One of the things he talked about was this issue of how COVID has really changed digital economic development. Many of your organizations have been going through this process of digital transformation. But what used to be a process where people talking about doing digital transformation in over maybe 2 or 3 years, well, COVID caused you to have to compress this to a matter of months. So we're seeing just a rapid acceleration of economic development becoming much more digital and digitally centered. The other issue is that when we looked at how economic developers have changed their work as a result of COVID, the first two things was making local business assistance a primary focus and increased community relations. But when you look at 2 of the 4 top things in terms of the new changes, they're both related to technology. First, the increased focus using technology tools to work with coworkers, but also an increased focus using technology tools to serve your customers. Web conferencing, again, online chat, social media site selection, local business intelligence, and so on. I also wanted to share that this is going to be a different type of webinar. I know there's so many webinars where people are just talking all the time or talking at you. Well, this is actually going to be more show and tell, and we're going to really focus on the issue of showing. There are many different types, of course, of ways to do digital economic development. There's lots of tools that are general ones that are used by many different professions and industry. You'll find things like, it could be HubSpot or using Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or many other different marketing and communication platforms like we're using right now with Zoom. This webinar is also going to be different in that we're going to focus specifically around economic development technology that was designed specifically for economic development. And there's some good news about this. Is that there's actually, even though there's many total solutions, those that are really designed specifically for economic development, you can get your arms around. And we're going to focus on the key ones today. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Aaron.
Thanks so much. And I do want to jump into all of these. We're just going to see now like just how digitally all of these tools can really help us. Let me start over. I'd like to get this show and tell on the road. I appreciated the show and tell slide on Natalia. It looked great. Mark, why don't I pass it over to you first? Why is digital small business assistance like so important for economic development? Like, what are some of the small business trends that you see really impacting it?
Yeah. So 2 questions there. Trends that I've noticed actually lead into why digital economic development is important. Trends that are definitely happening across the country is entrepreneurship is taking off. And we are in a unique position, all of us on this call actually, to where we get to work really across the country. So somebody right now sitting in Los Angeles, California might be saying, is entrepreneurship taking off? Well, you're opening at different rates in different parts of the country. We've noticed in many, many communities that entrepreneurship is definitely spiking. And we actually have the data to support that. It's not our data, it's data that we've come across that the United States has taken that we can actually put in the chat right now. That will point you to our website where it's definitely taking off. So if in your community, you're like, yeah, it really is, you've noticed this taking off, your economic development organization probably has started really helping entrepreneurs and helping startups figure out how they should be, what they should be doing to be successful. If you're in one of the communities that haven't, I promise it's coming. That entrepreneurship spike is certainly coming because data doesn't lie and the data is there to suggest it. The second part of that question is, why is digital important? Digital is important because there's only so many of you within your economic development staff. A lot of people on this call, there's just you. So how could you possibly help not only the important big businesses in your town, but also the people just thinking of starting a business? How could you ever make your time available to help all of those groups of people? And the answer is you definitely couldn't. So it's pretty cool, this format we're in today. You get to take a look at a lot of different tools that are going to help you do your job, and you don't have to sit down with us individually, and we don't have to see your face, and we don't have to know who you are. So you can actually take a look at it, right? So it's really cool. I love the show and tell experience. So I mean, I'll find a way to find you. No, I'm just kidding. So we'll take a look. We're going to look at SizeUp right now. It's an amazing tool. It's a tool that's designed for the startup themselves, for the small business themselves, to use on their own to get industry-specific data and research to help them grow. So I will begin sharing my screen now. There's a lot of different ones we could choose from. If you would like to take a look at any one of our tools, you can find them through our website. There's a lot of examples on there. I chose the Colorado Springs tool because they're a chamber and an EDC. The EDC is actually who decided to get this up and running for the entrepreneurs and the small businesses of Colorado Springs. But you'll notice in this tool that it's really easy to use. I am not an expert at technology, but I get on this tool and I know exactly what to do with it. And I did from the first day I was ever on it. It really intrigued me. All you have to do as a business is get on it and know what it is you do and where it is you do it at. So simply go into it, say, you know what industry am I in? Well, no business knows codes, right? They don't know any makes codes or SIC codes. Just start describing what it is you do. So I am a coffee shop located in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Super easy. Describe what I do, where it is I do it at. Let's hit continue here. 4 tools that make up SizeUp, and I'm going to zoom through them to show how important they are. But the first one's going to give you an idea of what you could achieve specifically in your community in this industry. So I'm the best coffee in the whole world. It's so good. It's fire. I'm going to make $1 million a year in total revenue. Well, SizeUp's going to super crunch millions of data points across your city, your county, your metro, your state, and the nation to tell you, no, you're probably not. The average coffee shop in the city of Colorado Springs makes $723,000 per year. So if I'm going in this gung-ho like every entrepreneur does, right the first KPI here, I get to see, you know what? I might not achieve that. Let's be more reasonable in our expectations. Let's look throughout the city here, throughout the county here, where are coffee shops performing the best with a heat map that I can easily read and understand and say, hey, what are they doing so different over here? And why isn't it working as well over here? What do these neighborhoods look like? What do these businesses look like? Let's compare ourselves to others doing exactly what we do. Let's check out industry trends, plotting how many of these businesses open every year over the last 30 years. Since my business opened and before my business opened, is this generally a growing industry? Is it a declining industry? Have we seen recent growth? Am I an entrepreneur who noticed, you know what, there's been a spike in the last couple of years in a certain industry, but not yet on the local level? That might indicate that there's a real chance of success locally because it's really been proven on a national scale or on a state scale or on a metro-wide scale, depending on where you are. Next is making sure we're paying competitive wages. And I'm running through this benchmarking quick just to show you. I'm typing a couple numbers. I'm comparing myself to what others do in my industry. In El Paso, Colorado, the average wage in my specific industry is $17,000 per year. $20,000 per year. My employees love me. They're not going to leave me because they're making more money at another coffee shop. And then how many employees does it take to run my specific business? Well, it's 20 employees. That's a small business, right? Well, yeah, it's a small business by definition alone. But in Colorado Springs, it's a giant coffee shop. The average is about 13 employees. So I'm a very big player. So if I'm looking at this through the eyes of a startup going to get my loan and just see, is this a viable business? I've pretty much over projected in every category. Let's get these to more reasonable expectations so I don't get myself into a lease that I can't afford. So I don't pay my employees more than I could possibly afford to pay them based off the revenue I'm probably going to make. But if I'm an existing business, it's not just for startups. If I'm an existing business, I get to see where I'm strong. I get to see where I'm not so strong versus what my competitors are doing. We won't click through any more of this, but you get to see at the end, you get a snapshot of a summary view that shows you exactly where your business, what category, where your business falls, the percentile in which you fall in. Like, how easy is this for any level in technology to understand? Okay, if I'm in the 69th percentile, that's pretty good. If I'm, in the yellow 50th, the kind of average, and red, less than what my competitors are doing. 4 tools that make up size up. That's just the first. I get to benchmark myself versus others. I've been told to keep this to 7 minutes, so we'll look at the others pretty quickly. But the competition section of the tool, I can change my industry here just to show you there's plenty to choose from. It's not just basic industries. Even if I want to say like, oh, I'm a restaurant, I don't say I'm a restaurant. You see these examples, I'm Mexican, I'm barbecue, I'm driving, chicken, so on and so forth. So I'm really comparing myself to others who do exactly what I do. Or say I'm doing something like plumbing. I'm a plumber and I want to know, okay, where are the people who I'm competing with in this industry? First thing it's going to do, show me on a red dot where all the plumbers are located across Colorado Springs. Not only can I see where my competitors are located, but I can compare that to where households are spending money within my industry. So I just go into the consumer expenditures button, a big blue button, and start searching for what I'm looking for, repairs and maintenance, plumbing. There's been a lot of plumbing repairs over the last week. I know if you live in the Southeast, and I am one of those people that does. So I get to see how many plumbing repairs were made and where can I compare that to where I have competitors. So can I find an area that maybe there's just older houses or the pipes just aren't as good? Can I find an area that has high household consumer expenditure with plumbing, but maybe not so many competitors? And I see, okay, maybe I go target the neighborhoods here because they have a lot of consumer expenditure, but not so many competitors there. I can go target and see, for some reason, a lot of households are spending money here. Let's figure out if we can advertise even just to the other people in those neighborhoods. You're using data to make smarter decisions. If you sell directly to the consumer, or you look for other businesses, right? Any business to business, sell to other businesses. In the case of a plumber, maybe I'm looking for residential home builders because I want to be one of their subcontractors. It's going to list all my potential customers here. These are the people that could hire me. And your economic developers, you can think of any example of business to business. Well, I can type in the industry and look for these specific businesses and call on them. Check out their website. Here's their name, their address, their phone number. And I'm getting a lead list here. Same thing with suppliers. I want to look up different plumbing supplies. Go in here for fixtures, fittings, and trim. Not only is it going to show me those that are within my community, it's going to show me within my community first. But if there's not 10 of them in my community, it'll build out from there. And now I'm finding that over here in Castle Rock, there's a potential supplier of mine that sells plumbing trim supplies. I bet you the plumbers in Colorado Springs have no idea this business exists. With Size Up, they will know that. The third of the 4 tools is our advertising. Let's make sure we're spending our advertising budget wisely. I was just reading some stats from Entrepreneur Magazine or something the other day, and 14% of the reason why businesses failed is because they were spending advertising dollars poorly and in the wrong place. Definitely want to make sure you're spending your advertising budget wisely. So I can go in here and say, you know what? I am now a dentist, and I want to know where the highest revenue generated areas are within the Colorado Springs area. Or I want to know where there's most underserved markets. Where are there areas where the businesses should be doing better than they are? And maybe I'm a pediatric dentist. So I want to know, okay, with a median age between 18 and 40 years old, because that's when people are having kids, underserved markets. And I want to know a household income of at least $50,000 because I'm targeting a higher household income for most underserved dentist area markets. I mean, we're getting extremely specific. I can go into my Facebook advertising now or Google or wherever and say, you know what, this area here, that's where it's going to be it's going to make the most sense to spend my advertising budget. And then lastly, the fourth and final part, and you can see there's a ton more tabs I could be clicking on, but I want to stick to my timeline. The fourth and final parts are demographics. Why are our demographics pretty cool to a small business? Because we can narrow down information all the way down to the neighborhood level. So rather than just saying there's 500,000 people in the city, good luck finding them. Well, I'm looking for 20 to 29-year-olds. I want to know where the millennials are located. Let's click on a heat map now, and I can find the neighborhoods that have the densest population of that particular market. So I can go in here and say, okay, what are the neighborhoods there? That's where there's a dense block of them. So near South Murray and Crestnut Drive, or I can't read, Crestline Drive, there's neighborhoods that have a dense population of this market. That's something small businesses can use. I can draw my own custom boundaries. So I can go in here and say, you know what? I want to cross city lines. I want to cross county lines. I want to cross state lines. Draw whatever boundary you want. You can get consumer expenditures, labor force, or demographics. And now I've pulled 520,000 people crossing many city lines here. Type in any address. You can do 1 mile all the way out to a 60 mile for consumer expenditures, for demographics, or for labor force. So what's a labor force that can get to that location in 20 minutes drive time or less? SizeUp's going to tell you exactly that. So that is SizeUp in a nutshell. You get to see a great, if I was a small business in 7 minutes, I've learned more than I could ever hope to learn about an industry. I'm sure you all have learned more than you ever thought you'd know about the Colorado Springs market here. But yeah, so just imagine every industry, you can help every business because you're doing it in a digital way. So I will throw it back to Anatolio now to introduce whoever's speaking next. Thank y'all.
Thanks, Mark, for that great demonstration of small business digital economic development. So now let's talk about the power of client relationship management. Chris, when COVID caused business shutdowns and work from home, many EDOs and IPAs were exposed for their lack of preparation to be able to communicate with local business and also their external business customers. And in some cases, didn't even have a repository to be able to contact or have the history of communication with people that they have as customers, or even that the team members could access themselves. What happened and how are EDOs and IPAs responding?
Okay, so thanks, Anatolio. Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Knight. And so first thing that we've seen, and Webtech, my company, works a lot in developing economies. So we need to keep that in mind when we discuss this, was that a lot of these IPAs or EDOs realized that they didn't have a CRM, or it wasn't online, it was an Excel spreadsheet. And when everyone had to start working from home, they either didn't have a list of investors to engage with, or they simply didn't know who they were. And luckily at the time, I guess timing wise for us, we had just launched our own CRM system. And I don't even call it that, it's more of a lead management system because it's geared up for the work you're doing. So we launched this called Amplify, and our idea was really never to compete in a saturated market, which exists with your Salesforce, your HubSpot, like was mentioned earlier. But we wanted to provide a solution at a low cost, fully customizable solution for EDOs all over the world. So why did we do it and how? Well, we took our knowledge. We're a lead generation company, so we did this. We did your job a lot of the time. We were using Salesforce Dynamics on a daily basis. And we realized that while these are exceptional tools, they're not exactly built to the needs of economic development and FDI. So what did we need to do? Well, we had to understand what your activities were, whether it's business retention and expansion, whether it's facilitation, lead generation, running webinars, going to events, and use this terminology in your system. We also had to create what we call pipelines, and I'll show you that in a second. We had to make it easy to import and export data. So you've got an Excel, which a lot of people have. You need to be able to get that online super quick. We also realized with other systems, there's a huge cost of customization. So we wanted to create something that you can customize at zero cost to you and complete ongoing training. So again, we've only 7 minutes, so I'm just going to show you a few highlights of what it looks like. So we created Webtech Amplify, and like everything, you've got your homepage telling you what you need to do this week, today. But then as you see, we have broken it down by campaigns, whether it be aftercare, facilitation, lead generation, whether you're doing webinars, and we have now decided to build it this way. So that's your overview. You can then decide on a campaign, as I mentioned. So what do we mean by lead gen? We can click on it. And some of you will be looking at multiple markets or maybe using consultants. So you might say, how are we doing in the Middle East? So a manager just wants a snapshot. Click in the Middle East. This is now going to give me, firstly, an overview. And the reason I show this is so you can see all of this is the words you could be using. I need to do my conference call. I then have a face-to-face meeting. We send our proposal. The site visit has been done. This can be tailored to say incentives negotiation complete. And then you can instantly see where each part of each company is at in your pipeline. You can then, like everything, see your interactions, but get a snapshot and see, well, where are the companies from? So the cities, you can see what are the sectors are involved in, where are the majority? So there aren't many which are getting close to closing. Most are at the early phase. And a manager is able to do this. They can then, what we have at the top, instantly download reports. And I just grabbed one before, just looking at the same thing to get a report of how you're doing compared to overall targets. Some of the hottest leads, which are at proposal phase, how different team members are performing, where they're in their leads. And again, you can go on and see what's going on. It gives you, at the click of a button, a 20-page report. So going on, you can then look at your leads. And just for this, to show you that how we're thinking, everything is thought as if we're doing your job. So if I look at Cyberbit, so a Middle Eastern company, I can see the lead information, but I can then go and say, okay, what stage are we at? So we're at a site visit. Maybe we've gone further now and we can click, okay, we're at project announcement. Save it. It will move forward in my phases. Once it is actually set up, you can convert that. And this will then go straight into your aftercare or business retention and expansion pipeline. So nothing falls through the cracks, and that will move on to the right member of the team to start looking after this company. One of the beauties we have is that we have our own software team, and we're able to evolve this nonstop. And one of the things we were told is there are a lot of roadblocks in the work you do. Maybe an investment's going through and it hits a roadblock where someone has to come in and help out, whether that be COVID, whether it be incentive negotiation. You can actually put the issue in and then assign it to someone who can unblock it before it can go to the next stage. So we've just recently put that in under a request of clients. You can have your RFP or whatever your response has been to the client here. You can store your emails like you would expect you could do. Then, as I said, we can click convert. I'm not going to go through each of the tabs because you understand what interactions are, what companies are, but a few of the things to show that it can do is, you can import lists, you can export. So as I mentioned, it all has to be super easy to do. But the unique selling point of this is how easy this is to customize. So just let me show you. If I click here, I can go and say, right, I want to change the fields. So as quick as this, I can say within company, okay, maybe we don't use the word postcode. We're in the US, that's zip code, can change it. I can then add in any extra category. I can choose what is required. I can then look at the different classifications. So we've linked it all to NAICS and SIC codes. So you're actually able to align it to your sectors. If there's other information you capture, like R&D expenditure, we were looking at if they receive an incentive, you can have a tick box, a yes, no. So this is completely up to you. And we're working with the country of Tunisia, and they've actually changed it all into French. So every word you see can be customized. Even like I mentioned, if we look at the campaigns, I mentioned we have our webinars. So you can choose what happens when you convert it. So if you convert a webinar, it goes into your lead campaign. If you're doing lead generation and it converts, you can choose it into facilitation or aftercare. But we looked at those phases. If you go and say, right, let's take a look at the stages and phases. You can say, okay, client deliverables. You can add anything you want here. So we've got investment started. You might want to add one, say, maybe we want to edit and have something different and call it incentive negotiated. And that can then be a tick box. And you can choose what is most important. So as a client moves through your pipeline, they will move through that. So, this is what we have launched. And the idea is that we offer as a consulting service where we clean your data and get it on the system. We do a full customization call with you. So none of our clients have got the same system. I showed you these campaigns. Maybe you only do one of these. You can have it as simple or as complex as you like. And the software team, we go through, it's about a 1-hour session to find out exactly what you want in the system, then customize the data to get it on. And what we have found during COVID times is that the speed of this and the implementation has been key. We've been getting clients all over the world, and the majority are typically using a spreadsheet or they're using a system which isn't fit for purpose that they've had for many years. And we're getting them onto this, which is cloud-based, and really, what it allows us to do is the flexibility. So if you say are using a database, whether it be say FDI Markets, Orbis, that downloads something in Excel, you can upload that to your pipeline. It also allows us to offer all our clients what we call a weaponized CRM. So my team can add, say, 2 leads per month to your CRM. So rather than just having a consultant working for you, they're feeding it all through into your CRM and into your day-to-day work. And then it can be assigned to the relevant people. So I think that's my 7 minutes. So I will throw it back.
Thank you so much for that great demonstration of how EDOs and IPAs can leverage CRM systems specifically built for our profession. Let's now transition over to virtual reality. John, in the early days of virtual reality, it was all kind of expensive, awkward, and kind of weak on the actual reality getting delivered. But that's not the case anymore at all. Virtual reality really lends itself to economic development. So can you tell us a little bit more about what you're seeing and show us how that works?
Certainly. Well, thanks for everybody joining today, and thanks for having me on, Natalio and Aaron. Like you said, Natalio, early on when we started developing this technology, there was no COVID. Everybody was traveling all over the planet, doing site visits and visiting locations. And we just thought that it would be a greener, more efficient alternative back then to speed up the site selection process. And so we had some early adopters, but like you said, it was clunky. It was tough to access. The technology wasn't quite there, but over the last couple of years, it's really steamrolled ahead. I mean, we're light years ahead of where we started. And now with the new headsets that have been developed, it continues to get better and better, more accessible all across the globe. So I saw a couple of questions in chat about, is this technology available? Ours you can utilize anywhere across the world. So currently we're working on projects up in Canada and down in the Caribbean, and I've got a couple in the docket over in Africa, it looks like. So with that, I'll share my screen and just show a quick demo of a couple of the videos that we've done, the virtual reality tours, and we can go from there. And so this is just a video of scrolling around on a laptop. Now there's many different ways to access this technology. You can use a laptop, you can use your cell phone, you can use a tablet. Cell phones and tablets both have gyros in them, so you can actually move the device around in a circle and up and down, and it'll track with you. But we can feature, like I said, we can feature sites and business buildings. We can feature community events, such as this is up in the Duluth. I believe this is Duluth, isn't it? This is out in Sheridan, Wyoming. I was on this shoot. And some of the biggest technology advancements that we've seen are we can actually put virtual infrastructure and buildings in a video and in a tour. So this is a virtual building that we did for one of our clients. This is another one, and Aaron, you can jump in and if you want. And I know this one's in Kentucky. I know that building is not there. I know that rail spur is not there. This train is real on your left. The train on the right is not real. So there's a lot we can do with virtual animation and infrastructure. Now, this is another tool that we've been using, and this is how we tour the inside of existing buildings. And so this technology is called Matterport. It's used a lot in the residential real estate space, but we've been using it for commercial applications. And it allows you to tour the whole facility. It also allows you to scroll out, see a dollhouse view. You can actually use it to measure different spaces within the facility, make sure that equipment will fit and that you can get the things in that you need. And then the other thing that we've been working on is we've developed our own app our own virtual meetings app so that you can invite your prospect in to a virtual meeting and actually do the tour with them, the virtual tour. So this is a demo of that. These are all Golden Shovel staff and Place VR staff, but they're actually taking the tour together. And so this is what they'd see. You can talk back and forth to one another, ask questions. It's as if you're sitting at the conference table with them while they're doing it.
Yeah, this one's downtown London.
Downtown where?
London.
London. Oh, that's a nice spot. I'd like to visit. And so that's some technology that's proprietary to us. Spent a long time developing it. We're really proud of it. It also allows for a presentation tool. So, and I think that's coming up in the video where you can actually share slides in addition to the video. So if you had a presentation that you wanted to show your prospects, you can do that in this virtual room as well. And this is our good friend Lisa Hurley out in York, Nebraska, showing off one of her pieces of land that we did a virtual building on, and still for sale. So if any of you guys know someone that wants rail access real close to a power grid, there's a great spot. Little plug for Lisa. So she's on here. There's the virtual building and how it kind of pops up on the field. And that's a view from the water tower in York. So we're not afraid of heights. Well, at least Greg isn't. I can't say the same for our whole team. But that you're having your virtual meeting on the top of a water tower. You can see kind of the infrastructure and transportation corridors. This is a recruitment video we did for their local community college, and shows some of the assets of the local college. Back to England. And then this is the slideshow. So this is how it would look during the virtual meeting. You can bring up your slides and show them to your prospects while you're doing your video. And I think that's pretty much it, isn't it, Aaron? Got a couple of more shots in here, but that's
Meeting locations. You can have your meeting on site.
Yep. So we've had broad acceptance of this technology. Like I said, we can do it anywhere across the world. COVID doesn't necessarily scare us. We're finding ways around that, depending on where the client is. We can bring in local assets to do some of the video shoots and then do all the post-production and graphic overlays and things back in our virtual offices. So it's been a busy time for us, and we're really excited about this technology and about where it's headed and what it can do for our industry. That I'll kick it back over to Aaron.
Hey, thanks, John, for the great demo of how EDOs can supplement their work with virtual reality. And now let's discuss another way to promote communities. Russ, the ways that businesses can learn about a location is expanding. What's new that you are seeing?
Yeah, so thanks for letting me bat cleanup here today. And I think the biggest, or one of the bigger trends that we're seeing is, this thing called the internet has become so big over the last 20, 25 years. I mean, when we started our company, we were trying to put dots on a map and do some analysis around them. And now we've gotten to a place where there's all these disparate technologies and all sorts of different ways to kind of bring information together. And so as we got to thinking about, what are our clients telling us? What are we hearing? We started to think about, okay, how do we make this sort of bigger? How do we maybe put a platform together that allows economic development organizations to promote communities, promote themselves, promote specific attributes of their community? And so what we put together is something called Zoom Tour. So let me get to the share screen button here for me. And there we go. The beauty of what I'm showing you here is this is actually a tour that our friends at Golden Shovel put together. So not only is this a technology that GIS planning has developed, but it's also a platform that allows for us to work together with our partners. And so in thinking conceptually about what this is, think of it as a platform. Think about it as a tour. You're on a double-decker bus in the UK and you're making 7 different stops at museums or historical places or things like that. You're promoting infrastructure in your community. You're promoting industrial parks, all sorts of different things. The limit to this is your imagination when it comes to this. And so in this specific tour, you can see we have about 9 or 10 stops. Start with a sort of an introduction about what it is that we're going to be talking about, but then we can just sort of navigate from one to the next. And so you can see that there's a number of different technologies that are built in here. So sort of 360-degree view of the area. We can put photos in here, different things like that. We can put data in here. And so the data, relates to exactly what we're talking about with the community and the area that we're looking at. So again, stop number 1, Salem Mall. We go to stop number 2, and what you're going to find here is something that looks very familiar from the presentation that Golden Shovel just did, which is integrating the virtual reality or the technology that they have, the virtual tour inside. Again, this gets back to my point of taking all these disparate technologies and being able to incorporate them into this single platform to help the user or your client or the person that's visiting your website get an idea of kind of what's out there. Where are the different locations within the community in this case where, that are available for development. Again, photos that are here. We have the Google 360, but videos that are in here as well too. We can click on all these, which I won't in my 7 minutes, but you've got floor plans that are in here as well too. So again, conceptually getting back to the foundation of this is my community, this is who we are, this is what we're trying to promote to the world. And again, it's these different stops along the way. So we can get the street view component in here as well too. So again, hitting on the concept of all these different technologies that are out there and that are available and that can be, brought together in a single place, in a single platform. I wanted to show you one other idea here too, in a way that another one of our communities is using this. This is up in Abbotsford, Canada. Very big on film. This is what they do. And you can see not only do they have multiple tours with multiple stops. And so the concept again behind here is, I want to look at downtown Abbotsford or the different film locations that they have here. And if we go, to the one that I'm clicked on here, there's 53 or so stops along this tour, and you can kind of click on one. And what they've done is they've actually showed you what films or what TV shows have been filmed at these different locations. Again, your imagination is the only thing that stops you here when it comes to being able to use the technology to promote the community. So if you're a quality of life community, maybe it's your parks and your schools and your downtown, or if you're an industrial community, it's the highway intersections and the big 500-acre plots of lands where you've now done the virtual tours that you see Golden Shovel put together, but integrating all of that in to one snapshot so that snapshot is there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week and incorporating all these different technologies. And again, the technologies they can all be integrated in this application. And so, I think the takeaway to Zoom Tour is it's a platform. It's a platform to incorporate information, and that information is for the most part visual. And you can even include voice. So if you wanted to have a little voice component in here so that somebody could listen to you tell a story about this location as well too, incorporating the voice component in here is part of the platform as well too. So I probably had the simplest demonstration of the technology, but that's the idea, is that these are supposed to be simple. These are not supposed to be complex. These are things that you can build on your own and not have to be real technological to do it. If you have access to photos, if you have access to maybe the work that Golden Shovel has done, or somebody in your community has put a video or a drone flight together, if you have access to that, that's all integratable in here. You don't have to be, a huge technological wizard to be able to use this technology. So I think on Atalio, the kickback is to you here, or maybe it's Aaron, I don't know, one of the A's.
I got
You guys can maybe take it from there, because I was able maybe to get us back on timing as well too, and leave the last 15 minutes for some questions and answers if necessary. So.
Okay, thanks, Russ. And that was a great demo of how to tour a community. It's following up what John had showed. These same technologies can be intermixed. Once you've got content that you can share, it doesn't have to just be, say, through virtual reality. It can also be through these fantastic tools, ways to show off your community. So, what do you think on Atalio of the demos?
I thought they're fantastic, and it really shows that there are economic development specific tools that organizations can use to give themselves competitive advantage, not in a generic way, but in a very economic development specific way. And I think that Mark, Chris, John, and Russ all showed that. So maybe, Aaron, you want to get started with, you and I can tag team and get through some of the questions that have been asked.
Yeah, the first question is for Mark. Mark, where does the data come from? And how are those tools getting updated? And this particular person is from Germany, but was very impressed and was wondering you can take it from there.
Cool. Yeah. So multi parts of that. The data is the most important question for any of us on here, obviously. So the data itself, we source from literal hundreds of different sources, especially the firmographic data. It's coming from a robust number of locations. So any private source you can think of, public sources, as public as IRS and local courthouse records. So coming from very specific places that we've taken internally and make sure we're giving out the best data possible. It is coming from the same places as the big guys, the McKessons of the world, and the Deloittes. So it's a very reliable data. We've been doing this for a long time. I did notice we've had a lot of questions about international, which we definitely can answer those individually. Right now, we are only working in the USA, but that doesn't mean we can't work internationally. So certainly reach out individually if you're interested in your country, whether it be Germany or I've seen Canada, other countries, let us know. And as a side note, Russ, I wanted to thank you for showing me the homeland of every terrible Hallmark movie that I've had to suffer through every year. I was glad to see that on Zoom tours. Appreciate that.
Yeah, well, there was like 58 more stops that we could have gone to there. So, yes.
This is to Chris. Is it possible to create an interface between Amplify and an existing company database so that both programs can interact in real time?
Yeah, a simple answer is yes. We've done it now with a couple where we've an API pulling through from said database into the CRM. So absolutely it can be done. Yeah.
All right. And there's another question asked by Catherine that asks, will this presentation be recorded and can you share it with your team? And the answer to that is yes. This is being recorded and it'll probably take a few days to process it, but yes, this will be made available to everybody who attended.
I do see another question that was asked earlier and it was directed at me. So I can answer it now if you guys want me to. I will ask myself the question. How does the product compare to one in particular, ArcGIS Business Analysts? I get this question a lot. How does SizeUp compare to X, Y, or Z? And the main way, especially for this one, that I would tell you that it separates itself is it's available to everybody all the time through your website. It is not just for one power user who knows what they're looking at or knows what they're talking about, because that hurts the scaling problem that we talked about earlier, right? The whole point of going digital to getting tools is to let the tool do your job. Actually, I had somebody tell me the other day they were going to win an IEDC award because they were doing their job so well by having all of this technology do it for them. So I laughed when I was like, you're probably kind of right. So that's the main reason. I mean, there's different points where it's got a lot of different data where that works together that you'd have to get 4, 5, 6, 10 different tools to actually be able to pull one report. SizeUp's got all those different things in the same place. But the main way is it's coming, available to anyone who's on your website. So you can scale it to the whole community, the whole world for that matter.
And John, there's a question for you. This question is about, is virtual reality being used in rural communities, and are they adopting this?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, the early adopters were almost exclusively rural communities, because when this technology first came out, it was to help the rural communities compete with larger metros that still could get access to site selection consultants that would still come visit and tour their sites and their communities. And if you were 2 plane flights away, I mean, I'll never forget Greg Wassmansdorf from Newmart Knight and Frank. That was one of the first comments he made to us is, if I can't get to you in one flight, I'm not coming to visit, not coming to do a tour. And so a lot of rural communities are adopting this, and they're partnering with other organizations. They're using CARES Act dollars. They're using tourism dollars, CVB dollars, you name it, to put these tours together. So absolutely, rural is definitely a market for this.
Yeah. Hey, John, I shared an ebook too that we had put out on some of the case studies we did with some of the rural communities for people. I'll put in the chat.
Cool.
John or Aaron, either of you could maybe answer this. Russ and Mark showed technologies that are customer facing. They're tools that live on websites. Can you talk about, because as Golden Shovel develops economic development websites, how you're incorporating this? Are these technologies that can live on the websites that you design?
Oh, absolutely. And we have integrated these technologies. I know the tour that Russ just showed was for a client of Golden Shovels, so that'll be prominently displayed. We've integrated SizeUp on web platforms that we've built out, as well as worked with Webtech. And so all these digital assets are available as far as when we're building out website platforms. Definitely.
And Chris, how do EDOs and IPAs access the Webtech Amplify?
Yes, so with us, it's a simple subscription. We've got people as small as a 10,000 person location with one user, up to the full country of South Africa who use it in every embassy and every part of South Africa, and it all feeds through to each other. So it's purely on a license. And I always say that there are no hidden costs. I know you read that a lot, but we actually fully customize this for you, and we don't have any add-ons at all. So we're trying to do a customizable and unique system for each EDO we work with.
I want to get to Dean's question, and Aaron, you're welcome to jump on this too, or anybody else. So what's next? What's next in digital economic development?
Sure. I'll just a couple things regarding the some of the virtual reality tools and stuff. The next space is going to be in augmented reality. We're already seeing so much development around being able to take these 3D visions for sites and put them onto cornfields. Soon that's going to turn into being able to wear glasses and be able to be on those cornfields and still see those buildings. And the technology is just coming at an incredibly rapid pace. And just a quick note to just play off this last discussion we just had is, like, really for a more rural community, it seems in these smaller groups, it really seems like the technology is where the value is going to come from. You can do so much more with technology, and using the tools that we saw today just lets you levels the playing field a little bit with some of the larger metros. Also, it just lets you get a lot more reach for fewer people hours.
I'll say what's next in digital economic development is actually what's now in digital economic development, because there's so many economic development organizations that haven't yet implemented what is possible today. They still have static websites. They don't have interactive tools like those that were shown by everybody on this panel. This is the obvious place to start, is implement the technology that is now available for economic development organizations. The other trend that I think is you're going to see much more of mass customization, because if I'm a business and I'm trying to interact with your economic development organization or IPA, I have unique needs for my business, for my industry in your location. So how do I get that so what you're telling me is not only relevant, but it is unique to me? So that's where I think that data is going to play a major role in that. And I think that we saw that with the fact, kind of at an internal level, the customization that happened with the Amplify software, or the fact that in Mark's example with SizeUp, that every business of every specific industry in any neighborhood can get analysis that's specific to them. Or in the example that John showed, we are taking you through all of these different models and visualizations that is specific to what your business needs. And similarly with Russ, we're saying, okay, well, this is what it is for the movie industry versus this is, I'm thinking about expanding into that location or I'm the local business. So I think data and customization will be big.
Yeah, and it's funny,
right, Natalio? I mean, and being able to see it.
And for me, when I hear that question, like, what is the future? Right now, what we just showed you is definitely not everyone's current. We should at least get to the current what's available before we're talking about when we're space travel. Like, you should be digital. Can you imagine a millennial or a Gen Z, the people that aren't quite yet starting businesses, doing economic development the old-fashioned way? There's no way that they're going to accept seeing static things on your website. They want interactive, they want technology, and they want to do it themselves. They don't want to ask somebody else for help. So, I mean, the future is kind of right now, at least beginning to this point, because I don't think it'll be a choice in the next 10 years. It will be necessary. Your community just will be overlooked.
Yeah, this is a really important point, is that digital economic development used to be something that was a piece or put in its own silo of an organization. Whereas now it's really becoming the center. If you're not doing digital economic development, you're going to have stunted economic growth in your community because digital has to be at the core of the things that we do. Now, I know that all of your organizations have new things that you're going to do, and we're not going to talk about them here. I would encourage all of the attendees to please reach out to all of these global thought leaders in the area of digital economic development. They shared their LinkedIn links. We'll try and send you emails and get you additional information. We'll have this also as a recording. Please do reach out to get additional information. I know that everybody on this panel is incredibly helpful. And with that, Aaron, you've got the last word.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for attending. And thanks once again just to all the panelists today, Chris, John, Russ, Mark. Just a real pleasure to see what you guys have been working on. And thanks, Natalio, for putting this together. It's a wonderful presentation.
Very welcome. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all to all of the attendees.
Thanks everyone.
See you guys.
Yeah. Bye.